Welcome to Dose with Grace. Hope you're doing well and taking very good care of your health. In our last video, we were doing chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, and though it wasn't my intention to break that into two parts, but that is how it was destined to be. We have done in the last video chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, which is called Akshar Brahm Yog or Bhagavad Prapti Yog, from Shloka 1st to Shloka 15th. And I had to pause that video at that point because on that day there was a very beautiful session of Hanuman Chalisa chanting organized at Sri Lakshmi Narayan temple here, and me and my husband were very keen to join that chanting session. And since it was organized at a destined time, we had to be there. So due to also it was a weekend, so it was with home chores and everything. When I found time, I started the chapter. However, I thought that was a perfect time to pause it so we could complete everything. And here I'm back again to continue that chapter from the shloka 15th onwards. And this chapter actually has 28 shlokas, so it's a short chapter. However, that is how it was organized to be into two parts, because this, like I said, the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita from chapter 7 to chapter 12 are the meat of the knowledge that is a bit more transcendental, a bit more evolutionary knowledge given by, more evolved knowledge given by Sri Krishna to Arjuna. The initial chapters are all about his initial questioning of the dilemma of being in the battlefield, that we all have very, very very basic questions. But here, since Krishna, after chapter 2, which is the also called as the Sar or the essence of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna narrated that to him, now every chapter after that is in more depth about one thing that Arjuna is asking. So chapter 8 is in the beginning of the chapter 8. If you go to the previous video, you will see that the Arjuna is asking Sri Krishna 7 questions. And very, very look at the question, chapter 1 questions and chapter 8 questions. Chapter 1 question is that what am I doing? These are all my people. Why am I in the battlefield? And the chapter 8, his 7 questions are: Brahm kya hai? What is Brahm? What is Adhyatma? What is spirituality? What is Brahm? What is spirituality? अधिभूत क्या है? अधिदेव क्या है, किसको कहते हैं? एंड अधिदेव कौन है? अधियज्ञ कौन है? और and how to remember you at the time of death. Who can remember you? How to remember you? So these are the questions which are very evolved questions. They are not from the moment that he is in, but from the learning that he is receiving from Sri Krishna from previous chapters. As the conversation is going into more and more depth and more into understanding of the absolute, that is where the questions are deepening as well. So if you go to the previous video, you will understand the answers given by Shri Krishna explaining all these 7 things to Arjuna. And I will just go back to the 15th shloka once again, and from there we will start this. But before that, like our tradition, let's start this. Before we start this video's content, let's begin by chanting these 2 very powerful, spiritual and enlightening Maha Mantras. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah शिवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Thank you for joining back. The 15th shloka of chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita says, वे परम सिद्धि को प्राप्त हुए महात्मा जन मेरे को प्राप्त होकर दुख के स्थान रूप क्षण भंगुर पूर्ण जन्म को नहीं प्राप्त होते हैं. Now here Shri Krishna is saying that those people who have realized themselves, those who have reached the siddhi, who have reached a state of self knowing thyself, and that thereby knowing Brahm, knowing the consciousness, knowing the source, knowing how this creation comes into being, knowing what is to be prayed, that is Adibhut, Adidev, and knowing what is the yajna, what is to be sacrificed, what is karma, all of that, when someone understands such level of understanding, with that level of understanding, when they reach that level of knowledge and that level of surrender into the permanent Sanatan. Sanatan means something that never ends. It has no beginning, no end. The continuum of the source. Then they do not come back to this small period of life and death. So here it is there are three key words in this shloka. Dukh ke sthan roop kshan bhangur punarjanam, which means there is a lot of suffering in this life. Dukh means suffering. Kshan bhangur means in the eternal life cycle of a soul, one particular lifetime from birth to death is a very tiny fragment of time. That's why it's called kshan bhangur. It's almost like a second or a split second. So this split second is not very, very important. It doesn't. So he's saying that such people do not come back to this life which is full of suffering and which is of such a tiny fragment of time in the eternal life of the soul, journey of the soul. And punarjanam here means reincarnation. So clearly in Sanatan Dharma there is a reference of reincarnation, many bodies, many lifetimes, and continuum of soul, and definitely there is a reference of life, of human life as a life of suffering. So he says, क्योंकि हे अर्जुन ब्रह्मलोक से लेकर सभी लोग पुनरावृत्ति स्वभाव वाले, अर्थात जिनको प्राप्त होकर पीछा संसार में आना पड़े, ऐसे हैं. So he says that apart from Brahmaloka, so these lokas are the realms. They are the different states of existence. So realms are, in a way, they are the states of consciousness, you can say, and the state of also physical existence. So right now we are in Bhuloka. Bhuloka means Prithvi Loka, a place, a realm where this is the lifespan, these are the physical conditions, and these are the mental, ethereal conditions. This is the conditions, this is the cosmic energy of this realm. But this is not the only realm. There are many realms below it, and there are many realms above it. In fact, Bhuloka is almost at the middle. There are 7 realms, 14 Patal Lokas below it, and then there are many lokas above it. So here Shri Krishna is referring to those realms. They are in Bhagavad Gita, they are called lokas. So he says that Brahmalok, Brahmalok means the place, that place of eternal existence of Brahma. Is that from that lok, below that, and that loka, until that loka, all the lokas, all the realms have this quality that you have to take, you have to keep coming back to it. You take birth, you are created, you exist for a while, then you become ksheen, you become deteriorated, finally you decay and you die, and then you go through another life cycle like that. So there is a cycle. Though in different realms, there might be a cycle which may be of a different duration, but the cycle is going to be the same. There is a creation, there is an existence, there is a growth, then there is a saturation, then there is a deterioration, there is a decay, and there is a death. And then again it starts with creation. So this whole cycle continues. In short, it can be called as a cycle of life and death. In all the realms, and it's not just one realm of Bhuloka, there are many realms until Brahmaloka. And there is above Brahmaloka also, and that is called Vaikunt. That is where there is no coming and going. There is no cycle that happens. Until Brahmaloka, there is cycle of, but the cycle can be of different the age, the lifespans can be very different in these lokas. मेरे को प्राप्त होकर उनका पुनर्जन्म नहीं होता है, क्योंकि मैं कालातीत हूँ और ये सब ब्रह्मादिकों के लोग काल करके अवधि में होने से अनित्य हैं. So here clearly Shri Krishna is saying that those who reach me, those who reach that absolute source through either of these sources, through Nishkam Karma Yoga, through Bhakti Yoga, through Gyan Yoga, through or through Bhakti Yoga, they, or through Tap and Yoga, they are the ones. If they reach me, then they don't come back to life again. Then they become source. They just merge into the source. And but other than all the other loka, all these other lokas are under the span of a time. They are under the limit of a time span. They are kal ke avadhi hone se. Avadhi means duration. So they have a duration of kal means samay, time. So they are all within a time limit. So because of that, they are within a time limit. That means they begin and they end. Anything that begins has to end. Whereas this loka, which Sri Krishna is referring to, which is the Vaikunt, doesn't have a beginning, and therefore it doesn't have an end. It's Sanatan. It is there in existence always. So these other lokas, they are anitya. Anitya means they have a certain limit, and that limit can be different for each realm. It can be like a life in Bhuloka can be 80 to 90 to 100 years, and in another loka, Swarga loka, it could be 5,000 years, but it will be a limit. But in that loka, which God says that where he lives, which is Vaikuntha Dham, there is no time limit. It is eternal. Hey Arjun, Brahma ka jo, so here in the next few shlokas you'll get more clarity into what he's saying. He says, Hey Arjun, Brahma का जो एक दिन है उसको 1000 चौकड़ी युग तक अवधि वाला, और रात्रि को भी 1000 चौकड़ी युग तक अवधि वाला, जो पुरुष तत्व से जानते हैं, अर्थात काल करके अवधि वाला होने से ब्रह्मलोक को भी अनित्य जानते हैं, वे योगी जन काल के तत्व को जानने वाले हैं. So here he is saying that people who truly understand time and understand time from its tattva. So here tattva means knowing something from its essence. That is why again and again this word is being used, tattva. जो योगी जन तत्व से मुझे जानते हैं, all those yogis who know me through essence, again, who know time through essence. So knowing just time frame, because reference of time is very different in different places. You go from earth to moon, also the reference of time changes. You go from earth to Venus, the time reference time changes. You go from earth to just outside the earth space, the reference of time changes. Even within the earth, what time it is here will be very different from what time it is in India, or in, say, Japan, or in the West, somewhere, in Dubai, or different countries. So reference of time, if we keep reference of time so limited to what time is it on the watch, or what time is it from the human life reference, he's saying तत्व से टाइम को जानना, समय को तत्व से जानना, मतलब you understand time. Its true understanding of time is that he says Brahma, the one who's responsible for creation in the Trinity. So in Sanatan Dharma there is a trinity of gods. Brahma is the god who's assigned to create this world, this material world. Vishnu is the preserver. He's the one who manages and preserves the existence once the world is created. And then there is Shiva, the part of Trinity, who helps in the in the destruction of the world, or the nature, or the tattva, when the time comes. Now what is the time here for creation, preservation, and destruction? That time is Brahma's, let's say, Brahma's one day. So what is Brahma's one day? Is 1000 Chokri Yuga. So it is 1000 Chokri Yuga. It's not just 1 year, human year, or a earth year. It's huge. And similarly, one night is also 1000 Chokri Yuga. Yuga is a very, so there are yugas, there are 4 yugas. Satyuga, which is the golden age, then comes Treta Yuga, which is the silver age, then comes the Dwapar Yuga, which is the iron age, and then comes the Kali Yuga, which is the which is today. Right now we are going through Kali Yuga. And these 4 yugas are under one day of Brahma. So one day of Brahma has 1000 Chokri Yuga, and one night of Brahma is also 1000 Chokri Yuga. And so therefore they also have an ending. So what here Krishna is trying to say, try to understand here time, that though Brahma's one day is this long and night is this long, but it is this long. That is it. It is only this long. According to Krishna, even that is this much only. Even though for us it is like we may take many lifetimes within this one day of Brahma and one night of Brahma. But according to Krishna, what he's trying to say is, if you truly want to understand the essence of the true essence of time, understand that even that is a limited time. It has a beginning, it has a morning, it has a dawn, it has day, it has evening, it has night, and then that night also continues and finishes, and then day begins. So there is a beginning and end to a day, there's beginning and end to night, and then together in the next sentence he says, इसीलिए वे ये भी जानते हैं कि संपूर्ण दृश्य मात्र भूतगण ब्रह्मा के दिन के प्रवेश काल में अव्यक्त से, अर्थात ब्रह्मा के सूक्ष्म शरीर से उत्पन्न होते हैं, और ब्रह्मा की रात्रि के प्रवेश काल में उस अव्यक्त नामक ब्रह्मा के सूक्ष्म शरीर में ही लय होते हैं. So here Shri Krishna is saying, so what is the day of Brahma, as we just explained in the previous shloka. So he says what happens in the day is, the whatever is existing, the nature, the Prakriti, the all the five elements, everything, and that combination of, and whatever exists through the combination of that those five elements, something which is subtle, something which is visible, when they combine and what they create, all the creation that we see around us, all the creation that we see under the microscope or through the telescope, and what we see through our naked eye, all of that is created in the beginning as the day of Brahma starts, from its from Brahma's essence, from its, because before the day starts there is no existence. So as the existence starts, the existence starts from the avyakt, unseen, unseeable part of Brahma, which is just the consciousness. And then after the existence is there for that long, how long the day is, towards the night, as the night begins, that existence goes back into that unseen, unseeable part of Brahma, which is the consciousness again. So everything arises from consciousness in the beginning of the day of Brahma, and everything goes into लय होते हैं, it goes into the body of that consciousness, goes into that, it gets, like you can say, it becomes it goes into destruction in the, and goes into annihilation into that same body which is unseen of that Brahma, where he, yes, भूत समुदाय उत्पन्न होकर प्रकृति के वश में हुआ, रात्रि के प्रवेश काल में लय होता है और दिन के प्रवेश काल में फिर उत्पन्न होता है. So again in the next shloka Krishna is saying the same nature, the same elements, the same creation, the same everything that's around us, water, earth, everything, and the entire existence, the more complex things, the more simpler, multicellular, microscopic, unicellular organisms, very, very basic form of life, even the elements, even the electron, photons, all of that gets again and again, utpann hokar, again and again, goes into annihilation and takes again its form through the body of Brahma and into the body of Brahma. So here he is saying उत्पन्न होकर प्रकृति के वश में हुआ. Now through what energy it is happening? It is happening through the energy of creation, and that is what is in the hands of Brahma. He's been assigned that. So he's saying again and again this whole cycle of creation happens due to the energy of creation itself. And so that's what he said in many other chapters before. You will see it says इंद्रियां ही इंद्रियों में बरतनी हैं. So it's like it's a set process that happens on its own. Creation happens during the beginning of the day of Brahma, and everything goes into annihilation in the beginning of the night of Brahma. And how long is it? 1000 chokri for the day, 1000 chokri for the day, 1000 chokri yugas for the night. So what in essence we understand is that it's a very long time frame from our reference point of view, but again it's a time frame with a limit. It has a beginning, it has a definite process, and it has a definite ending. So he says, हे अर्जुन, इस प्रकार ब्रह्मा के 100 वर्ष पूर्ण होने से अपने लोक सहित ब्रह्मा भी शांत हो जाता है. And Shri Krishna says, with this again and again and again this process continues till when? This process of creation and destruction, creation in the night, in the day of Brahma, and annihilation in the night of Brahma, keeps happening again and again until 100 years of Brahma. We saw what is the duration of one day of Brahma. into 100 years of Brahma. This whole series keeps happening on its own under the influence of the creative energy, again and again and again for 100 times. And after that, after 100 years are completed of Brahma, then Brahma, along with its own realm, all its realms, also becomes calm. It also becomes quiet. Then there is no activity that happens. Completely it merges into consciousness. परंतु उस अव्यक्त से भी अति परे दूसरा अर्थात विलक्षण जो सनातन अव्यक्त भाव है, वह सच्चिदानंदन पूर्ण ब्रह्म परमात्मा सब भूतों के नष्ट होने पर भी नष्ट नहीं होता है. So now here Krishna is differentiating between all these realms, and there is one more realm. He says that even after these 100 years of Brahma gets completed and everything comes to stillness, there is one avyakt, means one subtle, unseen realm. It's not a realm. So it says bhav hai. Bhav is like there is one unseen, a very very subtle state. Yes, so bhav will be subtle state. So it's a very 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 subtle state which is beyond these realms of Brahma also, which is the highest and the longest and the almost like everlasting. When that also lasts, it doesn't last anymore. Everything comes to stillness. Then there is a state after and beyond that, above that, and that state is called Purna Brahma. That state is called as complete absolute Brahma. Absolute consciousness. One is consciousness and one is the absolute consciousness. That consciousness, that absolute consciousness never ever goes into rest. That is always and always in existence. And what is that? That is Satchidanand. So what is that? Sat Chit Anand. Sat, absolute truth. Chit, absolute knowledge or absolute understanding, the essence of knowledge. And Anand, absolute bliss. That is that state which is called as Purna Brahma. And when all the existence also comes to a standstill, that doesn't. जो वह अव्यक्त अक्षर ऐसे कहा गया है, उसी अक्षर नामक अव्यक्त भाव को परम गति कहते हैं. तथा जिस सनातन अव्यक्त भाव को प्राप्त होकर मनुष्य पीछे नहीं आते हैं, वह मेरा परम धाम है. So in this shloka number 21 of chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna is saying, so that Sachidanandan, which means that Sat Chit Anand state, that absolute truth, absolute knowing, and absolute consciousness, and absolute bliss state, that unseen, unheard and unrealized part is called Akshar. That is Akshar. Akshar means something that never ends. It's eternal. So that's what is this chapter about. Akshar Brahm Yog. So that is called Akshar. That is called Akshar. That means it Avinashi. That never ends. That is eternal. And that eternal that which is called the eternal, that avyakt, avyakt would be like unmanifested. Yes, So unmanifested state is called Param Gati. That unmanifested state is called as Param Gati. And which, when one reaches there, one never comes back, because it's eternal. It doesn't have a beginning and an end. When one reaches that realm, when one reaches that state, which is above even Brahmaloka, so when one reaches that state, one doesn't come back, and that is where I live. So he's very clearly stated in the shloka number 21 of chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, that avyakta bhav, that unseen, unrecognizable part of me, which is eternal, it's called eternal, and that eternal consciousness is, when someone reaches there, they never come back to life cycles, no matter how long the life cycle will be. It will be a life cycle. But when one reaches there, that state which is above all these realms of life cycles, maybe different life cycles, but when one reaches there, then it is one reaches eternity, and that is where I live. So they reach basically God. और हे पार्थ, जिस परमात्मा के अंतर्गत सर्वभूत हैं और जिस सच्चिदानंदन परमात्मा से यह सब जगत परिपूर्ण है, वह सनातन अव्यक्त परम पुरुष अनन्य भक्ति से प्राप्त होने योग्य है. So he's so here Shri Krishna is saying in another following shloka that God is that state, where that state that I just described in the previous shloka, in that state the existence is called Paramatma. So he's not anymore Atma, he's Par Atma. He's gone above the realms of existence. So that is Par, above the Atma, Adhyatma, Atma, everything. So that state under which all the bhutas, all the states of existence are, and that state of permanent and absolute bliss, knowledge and truth, through which all these different realms are created, that Sanatan, that eternal, unseen, unmanifested Param Purush, Ananya Bhakti se, that can be achieved. Here in this shloka, he is clearly saying that can be achieved through complete surrender. So it's very clearly written that can be achieved through complete surrender. Avyakt Param Purush Ananya Bhakti se प्राप्त होने योग्य है. It is capable for us to reach there, that state, through Ananya Bhakti. It means through complete devotion. So he didn't say any other path but the path of devotion. That is why in Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Yoga is considered to be the highest level of yoga, because in Bhakti Yoga, even after receiving all of the knowledge, all of the doing all the right karmas, we can still have little bit of ego. But in bhakti, all ego is dissolved. When we start getting knowledge, we get into this whole, at least in the beginning, there is a lot of spiritual ego also that comes. That, oh, I am so spiritual, I am so enlightened, I am so much better than these petty people who are into after this material existence. Look at me, I am so good, I am so good. That is a spiritual ego. Because everyone is just evolving. And those who are slightly have learned some Vedas, have read some scriptures, so that through that they have gained their knowledge into this field, or those who are doing complete seva, complete service, and are doing their duty with utmost devotion and dedication, without attaching themselves to the fruits or benefits of their actions. That means they are doing Nishkam Karma Yoga. If they start thinking, I'm so superior, these foolish people just sit and read books, whereas I'm the one who is doing so much good karma in this world. I'm doing my job so dutifully, I'm serving my family so beautifully, I'm serving my community so well. I think I'm superior. That is also in a way a spiritual ego that comes in. But in Bhakti Yoga, it is not even possible to enter Bhakti Yoga if you have ego. You may think you're doing a lot of bhakti, but actual bhakti means complete surrender. That is bhakti. Bhakti doesn't mean doing things with rituals and keeping fast or doing ritualistic puja. Bhakti just means being in the complete divine love and surrender of God, believing that everything that is happening around you, with you, to you, through you, everything is a service to God, everything is through God, everything is to God, and everything is in the state of that surrender to God. That is Bhakti Yoga. And that, when one reaches, that is what God has actually also said is the way to reach that state which is above all of these realms, and the state which is called Paramgati. So let's go to the next shloka. और हे अर्जुन, जिस काल में शरीर त्याग कर गए हुए योगी जन पीछे ना आने वाली गति को और पीछे आने वाली गति को भी प्राप्त होते हैं, उस काल को अर्थात मार्ग को कहूँगा. So now in these shlokas, following shlokas from 23 to 28, Krishna is explaining that in Hindu Dharma especially, we assign a lot of importance to life and death. Both life and death is considered to be sacred, and there are a lot of rituals that are associated after a death of people, and there are a lot of things that we also look into consideration when we see the time. Just like there is a lot of consideration given to the time of birth of a person, and an astrological chart is prepared according to that, and we can see that what kind of a soul has come into this family when they are born. Similarly, when the soul leaves, when the body soul leaves the body and goes back into Brahm, at that time also there are lot of things to be seen, that at how the soul and what time the soul leaves the body is of great significance, as much as it is of great significance when the soul enters a body, which means when a baby takes birth. So here Shri Krishna is saying, I'm going to tell you now that the path of body being the soul leaving the body, so that the soul doesn't take another body and comes back into the cycle of birth and death, and the path of soul leaving the body in which the soul keeps taking the cycle of birth and death. So he's going to tell both, that there is a way. He's saying you can come to know that this person will be able to come back to life, or this person will not come back to life, and he has merged with the light through the time of death, when the soul departs the body. उन दो प्रकार के मार्गों में से जिस मार्ग में ज्योतिर्मय अग्नि अभिमानी देवता है और दिन का अभिमानी देवता है तथा शुक्ल पक्ष का अभिमानी देवता है और उत्तरायण के 6 महीनों का अभिमानी देवता है, उस मार्ग में मरकर गए हुए ब्रह्मवेता अर्थात परमेश्वर की उपासना से परमेश्वर को परोक्ष भाव से जानने वाले योगी जन उपर्युक्त देवताओं द्वारा कर्म से ले गए हुए ब्रह्म को प्राप्त हुए हैं. So here Shri Krishna is telling the two paths. One is the path towards reincarnation, coming back to life and death again, and going through that cycle of a soul, and another path of becoming completely merged with Brahm and part of consciousness and never coming back into reincarnation. And how he's telling these two parts from the time of death, from the way a body, time at which the body dies and the soul leaves the body. So he says the first, in which the soul never comes back. The soul merges with the Brahm. This path is for those people who, so this is associated with specifically time of death. So the two paths, one in which the reincarnation will happen and one in which there will be no reincarnation happening. The soul will leave the body and that's it. It has reached what we call in simple terms, it goes into moksha. We say that, oh, they have found moksha. And then there are some souls who leave and after some time they come back into earth, into another body. So that is, they come into the cycle again of reincarnation. So there are two paths, right? One which happens reincarnation, and in one case there is moksha. So now first path, Shri Krishna is saying, who achieves moksha? One who dies during the day under the influence of the god of day in the time of Shukla Paksh, when the moon is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. There are two phases of moon, where the moon is becoming bigger and another fading phase where the moon is becoming smaller. Where the moon is becoming bigger and bigger, that is called Shukla Paksh. So one who leaves the body in the light, during the day, during the waxing phase of moon, and during the 6 months of Uttarayan, which means when the sun is in the 6 months of Uttarayan. So 6 months of Uttarayan, as the sun is going towards the north, towards the north node. So there are 6 months of Uttarayan and 6 months of Dakshinayan in the calendar year. So first 6 months of Uttarayan, during the day, during the waxing phase of moon, and at the light, when there is light, if that time a soul leaves the body, then at that time those people who have been in complete, they have lived their life in the complete devotion of God. Generally those people would be very soulful people. If they have lived a life which is full of devotion, Nishkam Karma Yoga, and they have fully devoted their life towards doing good karma and duties, and they have gained knowledge in the name of God, surrendered themselves, because it says upasna se parmeshwar ko parosh bhav se janne wale yogi jan. Those type of people, when their soul leaves the body, all these devatas of Uttarayan, devata of day god, the devata of Agni, the Jyoti, the light, and the devata of the waxing phase of moon, all these devatas take them through a proper method, through a proper channel, towards the Brahm, towards the light. So this is clearly written in Bhagavad Gita. And then in next shloka he says, similarly, जिस मार्ग में धूमिभानी देवता है, धूमाभिमानी देवता है और रात्रि अभिमानी देवता है तथा कृष्ण पक्ष का अभिमानी देवता है और दक्षिणायन के 6 महीनों का अभिमानी देवता है, उस मार्ग में मरकर गया हुआ सकाम कर्मयोगी उपयुक्त देवताओं द्वारा क्रम से ले गया हुआ चंद्रमा की ज्योति को प्राप्त होकर स्वर्ग में अपने शुभ कर्मों का फल भोगकर पीछे आता है. Now he is saying, what about the rest of the people? The people who leave their body in the other 6 months, and those 6 months are called as Dakshinayan. The first 6 months are called as the Uttarayan, and the next 6 months are called as Dakshinayan. So who leaves their body during these 6 months, during the Krishna Paksh. Krishna Paksh is the waning phase of the moon, when the moon is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. During that phase of the moon of those 6 months, and during the night, and during the darkness. Okay, Dhumabhimani, which means during the darkness, during the night, during the waning phase of the moon, and during those 6 months of Dakshinayan. Whoever passes during this time and who has been a Sakam Karma Yogi. So there is a difference between the first phase, those people are Brahmavreta. Those were people who were not Sakam Karma Yogi. Sakam Karma, as we have understood, is doing good for the return, for wanting the returns. So they have always been those who do good deeds, who do good karmas, but with a desire to receive something back. Whereas in the first example that I gave of in the previous shloka, those are the people who just do good for the sake of serving God, not for wanting anything back. They go back to light, and if they they leave at that time and duration of the year as specified in the previous shloka. However, these people who live at under these circumstances of the year, and also who are Sakam Karma Yogis, they are taken by these devatas, the devata of night, devata of Krishna Paksh, devata of Dhupamipani, and devata of the Dakshinayan. Through a proper specific method, they are taken to towards the light of moon into Swargaloka, and there they enjoy because they have done good karmas, but for the desire of receiving good results and good benefits and good they have many desires. That's why they are doing good karmas. So they go to Swargaloka, and all those desires that they had, because of which they did all the good karmas, they have an account of good karmas. So they live in Swargaloka for as long as those accounts are there. They use that account, they enjoy the benefits, all the benefits that they had desired. They enjoy all those benefits, and then they come back into another body, into the life again, to live one more life, to complete that cycle of taking birth, growing, maturation, getting married, procreation, then decaying, then death. And depending on how they have lived that life, they either go through this side, or they go to that side, or if they have not done good karmas, then they can be also put to test and given a life to then correct their karma. So between these two, this is how they keep coming back and keep living their life over and over again. So Shri Krishna says, क्योंकि जगत के ये 2 प्रकार के शुक्र और कृष्ण अर्थात देवयान और पितृयान मार्ग सनातन माने गए हैं, इनमें एक के द्वारा गया हुआ पीछे ना आने वाली परम गति को प्राप्त होता है और दूसरे द्वारा गया हुआ पीछे आता है अर्थात जन्म मृत्यु को प्राप्त होता है. So in next shloka again Sri Krishna clarifies that in this world, since there are two type of the waxing phase of moon, the waning phase of moon, which means the Devyan and the Pitrayan, two clear eternal paths have been designed. That so those who leave their body in through one path go to one path, as in through the path of light, through the path of waxing moon, and through the path of Devyan, they never come back to light, they go to Param Gati. And those who go through the waning phase of moon and who go through Pitrayan, they come back into their life and they go through the cycle of life and death. So he says, हे पार्थ, इस प्रकार इन दोनों मार्गों को तत्व से जानता हुआ कोई भी योगी मोहित नहीं होता है, अर्थात फिर वह निष्काम भाव से ही साधन करता है, कामनाओं में नहीं फंसता है. इस कारण है अर्जुन, तू सब काल में समतप बुद्धि रूप योग से युक्त हो, अर्थात निरंतर मेरी प्राप्ति के लिए साधन करने वाला हो. So 27th shloka, which is the second last shloka of this chapter, Krishna says that, so Arjun, whoever fully understands gets, again he is using the word tattva, that whoever understands to the deepest level these two paths, that person, that yogi, that person who wants to, the one who's in search of God, who understands these two paths. First of all, who is not in search of God will not even come up to this level of trying to understand Adhyatma. So whoever is, if you're still here, that means you have that urge and that craving to understand thyself. You have that craving to understand Brahm. You have that craving to understand Sanatan Dharma and the path towards self-realization. So for those people, Krishna is saying, one who fully understands it will not get attracted or engulfed into this whole understanding of which path I should be living with and all that, because they will rather be fully embedded into doing their karma and dovetailing it to me. They will just do their duty and they will leave everything to God. So, and through that they will be able to get rid of the desires. After all, choosing a path to leave your body is also a desire. So it is so difficult to know and to be able to keep predicting in what way will I die. Will I die and come back into this world, or will I die and have reached the light? How to find, even if I'm so much wanting to see God, meet God, how can I be so sure? The only path for me is to get rid of even that desire. Live with this pleasantness, live with this bliss, that I am doing my duty to the best. So he's telling Arjun that just with this balanced mind, with a meditative mind, in that form of meditating upon me, that kind of beautiful mind, just do all of your duties, just keeping that in mind, just live your life, just do all your activities. So he's telling him, have that in you, have this knowledge in you, have this thought process in you, and have this balanced approach towards you. That all this you know, that this is the way to reach here, this is the way to reach here. But what is the way? The way is to reach God. And in the previous shlokas, if you go to the shloka number 22, that he said that it is possible to reach me through Ananya Bhakti. So having all of this knowledge, if you have this knowledge at tattva level, he's saying everything has its beginning and end. Only when you reach me, everything is eternal. Then you are not bound to anything. So how to get rid of that bondage is to get rid of your desires. Even this desire may seem like a very high level of desire, that I want to reach God. But that itself is a desire. So it limits our actions. It makes, in a way, it will slowly and slowly starts corrupting our purity of mind. So Krishna is telling Arjun, तू सब काल में, under every time, under every situation, and under every path, whether you are going through this path or you're going through that path, nobody knows. So in every path, if you remain samtav buddhi, a balanced mind, yog se yukt, in the meditative state towards God, which doesn't mean sit and meditating. In everything can be a meditation. If we are brushing our teeth, we brush our teeth with that pleasantness. It's meditation. And generally, my definition of meditation is doing whatever you're doing with complete state of presence and pleasantness. That is meditativeness. Even when I'm cleaning floor, I really enjoy my job. I want to clean it so beautifully that my whole family, when they walk on it, they find it smooth, they find it very clean, they find it very pleasant if they are walking barefoot. And when they're looking at it, it's shining and sparkly clean. It gives you a sense of beauty. It gives you a sense of, cleanliness is next to godliness. So any work that we do, when we are washing utensils, if we are cooking food, if we are reading a lesson, right now when I'm narrating this Bhagavad Gita, this is meditative because I'm doing it with my full love and devotion. And that is serving God. Whatever we do it with the knowledge of God in our mind, have God within, have God in our thoughts. And with that meditative spirit, whatever we do not need to think of the path that we are into. He said, Sab Kal mein, in all paths. Here the Kal is not time, because he said initially, now I'll tell you the Kal of how to, which path the soul will go. So here, continuing with that narration, here the Kal is referred to as Marg. Marg means path. And even if we call Kal as time, so he's saying in all times, be of a balanced mind, be of a meditative mind towards union with me, believe that you are with me, I am with you, and then मेरी प्राप्ति के लिए साधन करने वाला हो. Everything is the way to reach me. Believe that, and that is the state he's asking Arjun to be in. So the last shloka of chapter 8, क्योंकि योगी पुरुष इस रहस्य को तत्व से जानकर वेदों के पढ़ने में तथा यज्ञ तप और दान आदिकों के करने में जो पुण्य फल कहा गया है, उस सब को निसंदेह उल्लंघन कर जाता है और सनातन परम पद को प्राप्त होता है. So that is what he's explaining now in the last shloka, what he said in the previous shloka, that hey Arjun, if you be in that state, if you be in that balanced mind and that state, he's saying that is what is called as yogi, that you're always in the happy state. You're all not happy but pleasant. Happy is like when you're happy you can be also sad. A state of bliss is where you're eternally in the God mind. You're eternally having God in your essence, and you're true to your essence. That's why the Buddha used to also say, be present in now. Being present in now means being fully alert alive, and in complete state of consciousness. And that is when you're with your aliveness, that means we are with our conscience. And then we are doing whatever we do according to dharma, we dovetail it to God and all of that. So Shri Krishna is saying yogi purush, one who is in that state of yoga at all times, who gets this secret, this rahasya ko tattva, who gets the essence, who gets the secret of this essence. That yogi overpowers or overcomes the deceptions which even someone who has read all the Vedas, who has done a lot of yagyas, who has done a lot of penance or tapasya, and who has done a lot of charity, dan adiko, someone who has done a lots and lots of charity, even those people, those who have done a lot of yagyas, they have done a lot of donations, done a lot of prayers, have done a lot of rituals, those who have done a lot of reading and achieved a lot of highest and highest knowledge on Vedas, even those, but all those people who do these kind of paths, and they try to reach some level of punyas, they want to achieve some punyas by doing all this. So a yogi even overcomes those people, ulangan kar jata hai, that means he overpowers these people also, these paths also, and reaches the sanatan, the eternal realm, that eternal state which is me. So through this, Shri Krishna is telling all of us that remember God at every time, remember God in every action that you do, remember God in every thought that you send to others, you reflect upon, and in every daily activities of yours, make God a part of your every breath, a part of your every intake, and a part of your every release. And that's the perfect way to reach that state of yoga, through which we all can reach God. We all can be pleasant, we all can be in the state of eternal happiness, eternal bliss, eternal sense of knowing, and eternal truth. It is not complicated, it is very simple, and it is possible for all of us to annihilate our own sufferings and reach this beautiful state of bliss while we are living in this body and in this world and doing our everyday life activities and taking care of all our life responsibilities. With that, I will end this video, and I'm very glad that we got these two different part 1 and part 2, so we could fully give our love and devotion to this chapter that it's so needed. I think it was perfect, and whatever God does is the best. So thank you very much for joining me. The next video will be on the 9th chapter, which is Raj Vidya, Raj Gupt Yog. You might have heard a lot from Brahma Kumaris about this, that they talk about Raj Yoga. So 9th chapter is equally powerful, very, very knowledgeable, and it will take you one step closer into your spiritual journey to have a Sachidanandan life, which means eternal life of eternal truth, eternal bliss, and eternal knowledge. So with that, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to do this chapter with you all. Can't wait to start chapter 9 soon. And let's end this video with our devotion towards and thanks to God with these two beautiful Mahamantras. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.